In a world that praises emotional expression, the idea of feeling nothing may sound cold, even dangerous. But to the Stoics, it meant something far more profound. It wasn't about becoming numb, it was about becoming unshakable. When Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed," he wasn't advocating apathy. He was speaking of choice, the choice to control your mind rather than letting the world control you. The Stoics didn't suppress emotion out of fear. They disciplined emotion to protect peace, clarity, and strength. This is Stoic discipline, the ability to rise above chaos, pain, betrayal, and fear, not because you don't feel, but because you choose what to do with what you feel. In the sections that follow, we will explore 10 deep reflections that explain the true meaning of feel nothing in Stoic practice, not as detachment, but as domination of the self. Let us begin. Emotions are not the enemy. In fact, they are essential signals, data from the mind-body system meant to inform our awareness. The problem arises not from emotions themselves, but from our untrained responses to them. The Stoics didn't aim to eliminate emotion, but to govern it. They knew that anger, fear, sadness, or desire could cloud reason and lead to poor decisions if left unchecked. In Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, he repeatedly reminded himself that emotions must be interpreted through reason before they are acted upon. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This is the first major shift. Emotions do not define us unless we allow them to. You can feel anger and not lash out. You can feel anxiety and not withdraw. You can feel grief and still rise with grace. This is what makes Stoic discipline so powerful. It separates stimulus from response. It grants us a pause, and in that pause, we reclaim control. Imagine a soldier in the heat of battle. Fear may surge through his body, but training allows him to act with precision, not panic. That's the Stoic ideal. Emotion may arise, but we are trained not to be ruled by it. It becomes a tool, not a tyrant. Stoicism challenges the modern narrative that every emotion must be expressed or indulged. Instead, it asks, what good will come if I act on this feeling? Will it help me live with virtue, or will it make me a slave to impulse? This is not repression. Repression hides emotion. Stoicism inspects it. It evaluates. It chooses. It maintains power over the self, even when the world tries to take that power away. Another important aspect of this mastery is understanding the source of emotions. Often what we feel is the result of judgments, the stories we tell ourselves. If someone insults us, the pain doesn't come from their words, but from our belief that those words matter. If we lose something, grief stems not from the object, but from our belief that it was essential to our happiness. Thus, the Stoic begins training by watching thoughts as a hawk watches prey. Every emotion is tied to a thought, and thoughts can be changed. Through journaling, reflection, and meditation, the Stoic learns to spot the irrational thoughts before they grow into emotional storms. To feel nothing in the Stoic sense is not to be dead inside. It is to be alive with complete awareness, to be the calm in the center of chaos, to be unmoved by praise or blame, gain or loss, because your values, not your moods, guide your life. So the next time emotion rises, don't fear it. Face it. Question it. Train it. Let it inform you but not control you. Let it pass through you but not define you. This is the beginning of emotional mastery. This is the first step to feeling nothing and becoming everything. Stoicism has long been misunderstood as a philosophy of emotional suppression. Critics often label Stoics as cold, robotic, or disconnected from human experience. But the reality is far richer. The Stoics didn't aim to eliminate feeling. They aimed to redefine its power. To feel nothing in Stoicism doesn't mean you lack compassion or joy. In fact, many Stoics like Epictetus, once a slave, and Seneca, a wealthy statesman, wrote deeply about love, friendship, duty, and care for others. The key difference was how they chose to engage with those emotions. Stoicism teaches us to prioritize virtue over volatility. Instead of being slaves to moods and whims, the Stoics cultivated what we could call emotional elegance. the ability to experience deeply while acting wisely. Emotional discipline did not mean emotional absence. When Marcus Aurelius lost several of his children, his grief was profound, but it did not cripple him. He wrote about these losses not with bitterness, but with clarity and dignity. That's not numbness, it's noble endurance. The myth of numbness is fueled by confusion between apathy and apatheia. The former is a lack of care. The latter, in Stoic terms, means freedom from irrational passions. A Stoic feels anger, but does not become anger. A Stoic feels loss, but does not collapse into despair. This inner distance allows them to remain clear and just in their decisions. Furthermore, Stoicism encourages joy in what is natural and virtuous. Spending time in nature, enjoying conversation with friends, fulfilling one's duties with pride, all of this was celebrated by Stoic thinkers, but they warned against over-attachment to fleeting pleasures. What Stoics sought to avoid were the traps of emotional excess, rage, obsession, envy, panic, because these cloud reason and strip us of autonomy. They didn't cut out joy or love. They simply refused to be ruled by them. So to label Stoicism as cold is to miss its true warmth. A Stoic parent still loves their child deeply, but does not place their own happiness entirely in that child's hands. A Stoic leader still cares for their people, but is not paralyzed by criticism or praise. Feeling nothing, then, is not a state of emptiness. It is a state of emotional sovereignty. You feel, but from a grounded place. You engage, but without dependence. You suffer, but with strength. True Stoic discipline allows for the richest human experiences, friendship, duty, courage, and love, without letting them become chains. In doing so, it sets you free to act with clarity and principle, no matter what storms rise within or around you. At the heart of Stoicism lies a simple but radical idea. Your greatest enemy is not out there. It's within. It's not the insult, the betrayal, the chaos. It's your reaction to those things. And that's where the real war is waged. The first and fiercest battle for a Stoic is against impulse. Impulse is the immediate, unfiltered urge to act without thought. It's the snap of rage when offended, the paralyzing fear and uncertainty, the desire for pleasure without cost. The Stoic path is to recognize that without discipline, we are puppets pulled by emotion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength begins with self-command. You cannot always control what happens, but you can always choose how you respond. Discipline in this context is the training of the will. It is the decision to pause before you speak, to breathe before you judge, to choose virtue over instinct. Like a sculptor shaping stone, you carve yourself through deliberate action. Think of impulse as the fire, and discipline as the forge. Without the forge, the fire destroys. With it, the fire tempers steel. Stoics practiced daily habits to strengthen this self-control. Seneca advised frequent self-reflection at day's end, asking, "What did I do wrong? What did I do right? What could I have done better?" This wasn't self-punishment. It was self-polishing. Discipline also meant being prepared in advance, what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, foreseeing misfortunes. By imagining difficulties ahead of time, they trained themselves to stay steady when trials came. If you rehearse hardship, you meet it calmly. But discipline doesn't mean suppression, it means alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and values are aligned, you become invincible from within. You respond from your principles, not your pain. To feel nothing, then, is to feel the pull of impulse, but not obey it. To recognize the temptation and stand firm. This is the discipline that builds power, trust in self, and freedom from regret. The first battlefield is always the mind, and those who win there win everywhere. All humans experience pain. It's part of the human condition. But the Stoics drew a powerful line between pain and suffering. Pain is what life does to you. Suffering is what you do to yourself with that pain. This distinction is essential to Stoic discipline. Pain is physical, emotional, or circumstantial discomfort. It's the body hurting, the heart breaking, the dream failing. These are facts of life. The Stoics didn't deny them. They accepted them as part of fate. But suffering, that is the mental narrative. It is the belief that pain should not be, the resistance to what is, the inner voice screaming, "Why me?" It's in that mental resistance where anguish grows. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." When you see pain as unjust, personal, or permanent, suffering takes root. But when you accept it as part of nature, something that all humans must face, the sting fades. This doesn't mean indifference to pain. It means coexistence. A Stoic feels pain but doesn't feed it. He or she may weep but not wail, may bend but not break. There's a quiet strength in enduring without self-pity. Seneca, who lived through illness, exile, and political persecution, wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Much of our torment is anticipatory or exaggerated. We make small wounds fatal through fixation." So, how does one minimize suffering? The Stoic uses reason like a scalpel. They separate the event from the story. I lost my job. Fact. I am worthless. Fiction. She left me. Fact. I'll never be loved again. Fiction. In removing these false judgments, the mind becomes lighter. The Stoics also relied on gratitude as armor. Even amid pain, they gave thanks for life, for breath, for the chance to practice virtue. Pain became not a curse but a test. To feel nothing in this context means to feel pain without letting it metastasize into suffering. It means bearing the burden with grace, allowing pain its place, but denying it control. Pain knocks at every door, but suffering is optional, and the Stoic chooses to live free. In the eyes of the Stoics, the mind is a sacred stronghold, a fortress that must be guarded more fiercely than any physical possession. To feel nothing in the Stoic sense is to build such a fortress so well that nothing external can breach its walls without your consent. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." That's why, for Stoics, mental hygiene is paramount. Just as you wouldn't leave your front door open to strangers, you should not leave your mind open to every fear, insult, temptation, or distraction that knocks. The fortress metaphor is powerful. Within it, you decide who enters and what stays. This means choosing your thoughts deliberately. Not every emotion deserves a seat at the table. Not every idea deserves room in your head. Guarding the mind begins with awareness. Are you feeding your thoughts with envy, bitterness, or anxiety? Or are you nurturing gratitude, perspective, and calm? Epictetus warned that we become what we habitually dwell on. So guard your inputs, social media, conversations, news, and filter what supports reason and peace. The Stoics practiced mental filtering. They asked, "Is this under my control?" If yes, act wisely. If no, release it. This single practice blocks most emotional hijackings before they start. You can't control someone else's rudeness, but you can control whether it enters your emotional core. Building the Stoic fortress also involves preparation. Like soldiers training for battle, Stoics rehearsed hardship, insult, and rejection in advance. So when the real attack came, they were already fortified. One of the strongest defenses is identity. Know who you are. Know what you stand for. When insults come, they bounce off your principles. When temptations rise, your clarity makes them irrelevant. The fortress is strong not because nothing touches it, but because nothing shakes it. To feel nothing, then, is to protect your peace like a general protects a citadel. Not by hiding, but by reinforcing. Not by avoiding life, but by mastering your posture toward it. The Stoic does not run from the world. They face it, with a mind untouchable by noise. You are not a victim of what you hear or see. You are the gatekeeper. Strength is knowing how to close the gates. Modern life is full of emotional landmines. A comment on social media, a disagreement with a partner, a missed opportunity. These triggers often set off instant reactions: anger, anxiety, shame. But Stoicism teaches us that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies the power to remain free. This space is the pause, the moment before reaction. Most people skip it. They feel, then act. The Stoic trains to insert will between feeling and action. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, Realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. The trigger does not control you. You choose to be triggered. This realization is both humbling and empowering. The power of pause begins with awareness of your emotions. When a feeling rises, jealousy, rage, fear, the Stoic does not immediately push it away or act on it. They observe it. They ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Is it rational? Is it useful? This moment of reflection can be as brief as a breath, but in that breath, the world can change. You can decide not to yell, not to sulk, not to panic. That decision reclaims power. Practicing the pause turns reaction into choice, and repeated choices shape character. You become someone who doesn't snap under pressure, who doesn't need revenge, who isn't easily baited. It's not about not feeling, it's about feeling intelligently. Emotional triggers lose their power when you stop giving them access to your automatic behavior. The Stoics use journaling and daily self-audits to track emotional responses. What triggered me today? Did I pause or did I react? This mental training rewires the reflex. To feel nothing, then, is to feel fully, but act consciously. To let the wave rise without letting it crash over your reason. The pause is not weakness. It is the highest form of control. In the power of the pause, you find freedom, and that freedom is the seed of all virtue. To the average person, praise is fuel and blame is poison, but the Stoic seeks to transcend both. Why? Because both are external opinions, and the Stoic builds their life on internal truth. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself often, don't let your reputation matter more than your character. He knew the danger of living for applause. Praise can feel good, but it can also enslave. If you crave approval, you become dependent on it, and what you depend on controls you. Blame works the same way. It can crush you if you give it power. But a Stoic asks, is the criticism just? If yes, learn from it. If no, discard it. This indifference is not arrogance. It's alignment with virtue. Stoicism teaches that only virtue is good, not status, not fame, not reputation. So if your actions are guided by wisdom and justice, then praise and blame are irrelevant. The applause of fools is worthless. The scorn of the ignorant means nothing. What matters is your own conscience. Are you acting from integrity? Then you are safe. To feel nothing in this context is to feel no need for validation. You still hear feedback, but you filter it through principle. You are no longer tossed by every compliment or insult. This creates a profound sense of inner peace. You are not climbing a ladder others control. You're walking a path you've chosen. In a noisy world, indifference to praise and blame is power. It silences the crowd so you can hear your own mind clearly. The Stoic idea of apatheia is often confused with emotional detachment or apathy. But apatheia is not lifelessness. It's equanimity, a soul undisturbed by irrational passions. To feel nothing doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care correctly. You prioritize virtue over outcome, effort over reward, wisdom over desire. You love others, but do not control them. You work hard, but release the result. You engage life, but remain anchored in your values, not your outcomes. This is a sacred form of detachment, not rejection, but perspective. You become like the archer in the Stoic metaphor. Your job is to aim with skill, not to control the wind. Practicing apatheia means surrendering what is not yours, other people's opinions, random outcomes, the flow of fate, and in doing so, you gain total ownership of what is yours, your choices, your values, your reactions. To live this way is not to be empty, but to be free. And in that freedom, you find joy, not the giddy joy of chance, but the steady joy of mastery. So apatheia is not cold, it is serene. It is the flame that burns without smoke, the current that flows without turbulence. You care but wisely. You act but without clinging. You live but without fear. This is the power of feeling nothing. Not numbness, but nobility. Stoic discipline is not a one-time revelation. It is a daily ritual. To feel nothing in the Stoic sense is not a natural state. It is a cultivated discipline. Just as the body is trained through repetition, so too must the mind be forged through deliberate daily practice. Without it, emotions will regain control and drag you back into chaos. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most powerful man in the world at his time, journaled each day, not for the public, but for himself. These writings, now known as meditations, were never meant to be published. They were exercises in internal clarity, reminders of truth, and reflections on character. His practice was not grand, but consistent. This is the first Stoic exercise, journaling. In the morning, prepare your mind for what lies ahead. Ask yourself, what challenges might I face? What emotions might try to hijack me? In the evening, reflect, how did I handle those moments? Where did I act from reason, and where did I falter? You become what you repeat, and repetition in self-awareness leads to emotional mastery. The second exercise, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This practice involves imagining what could go wrong, not to panic, but to build resilience. Picture loss, insult, hardship, not to become cynical, but to neutralize the fear that so often governs our lives. When trouble actually arrives, you will not be shocked. You will already have rehearsed. Seneca advised, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. The Stoic prepares not to avoid discomfort, but to meet it with power. Third, voluntary discomfort. Practicing minimalism, fasting, physical labor, or enduring cold not as punishment, but as proof that happiness does not depend on luxury or ease. By choosing discomfort, you dismantle the illusion that comfort equals happiness. You realize you can endure more than you think. These exercises rewire the brain. They challenge the modern idea that emotions must be indulged or expressed immediately. Instead, the Stoic reminds us that emotion is information, but behavior is your choice, and that choice must be trained. Another practice, moment-to-moment awareness. Throughout the day, ask yourself, is this emotion serving me? Am I acting according to my values, or am I reacting out of habit? This turns everyday life into a dojo for Stoic discipline. Even simple things like not checking your phone at the first urge or pausing before replying to a frustrating comment can become acts of inner control. Self-discipline is built in the micro moments. One of the most powerful rituals is the evening review, as taught by Seneca. Before bed, ask, what did I do well today? Where did I let emotions take the lead? What will I do better tomorrow? You are not seeking perfection, you are seeking progress. And over time, with discipline, you will become someone who doesn't just talk about Stoicism, but embodies it. To feel nothing, then, is to feel less ruled by emotion each day, and that comes only through practice. As with any virtue, Stoic control is not inherited, it is earned, through sweat, through struggle, through ritual. And those rituals, when faithfully followed, transform your mind into a sharpened tool, your heart into a grounded force, and your life into a living example of emotional power. The final form of Stoic discipline is not just to feel less, it is to become fireproof. Not in the literal sense, but emotionally. The Stoic, through years of discipline, does not merely survive the flames of life, they walk through them with grace. What does it mean to be fireproof? It means insults no longer pierce you, loss does not break you, fame does not inflate you, fear does not freeze you. You stand within the fire untouched, not because the fire is gone, but because you are no longer flammable. The world is always burning. People gossip, loved ones betray, dreams collapse, death comes. The emotional person is burned by every ember. But the Stoic, having forged their character in advance, remains composed, still, powerful. This is not superhuman. It is simply the final stage of mental conditioning. Like a sword hardened through heat and pressure, you are forged by your challenges. The Stoic does not wish for an easy life. They welcome the difficult one, knowing that it will shape them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." The Stoic turns trials into training, pain into patience, conflict into calm. Every problem becomes raw material for greatness. To be fireproof is not to be detached from humanity. It is to be more human than most. You feel deeply, but you are not swept away. You care fully, but without clinging. You give love, but do not demand its return. You risk and are ready to lose. This kind of strength is rare because it cannot be faked. It is not loud or boastful. It is quiet and undeniable. When everyone else panics, you breathe. When others blame, you reflect. When life falls apart, you build again, because your foundation is within. To reach this level, you must integrate everything you've practiced. Thoughtful awareness, emotional restraint, indifference to external praise or blame. Clear identity, daily training. Love of fate, amor fati. You no longer argue with reality, you flow with it. You no longer fear loss, you embrace impermanence. You no longer resent obstacles, you turn them into the path. And this is the paradox. To become fireproof, you must pass through the fire. You must endure loss, betrayal, struggle. But if you respond with stoic courage, not reaction, you become stronger each time. Soon, nothing can shake you. Not because you are hardened, but because you are whole. This is what it means to feel nothing. Not that you don't feel, but that you feel rightly, wisely, and bravely. That your emotions serve you, not the other way around. And when the world tests you next, and it will, you will not flinch. You will stand calmly in the flame because you are fireproof. Let me know if you'd like a polished version of the full document, an audio script version, or visuals to match for a video production.